football.
Sorry. Thought you were going to hit the intro screen there. I think our production team, Phil Mackey and Declan Goff, need to call timeout and get on the same page today.
Back-to-back timeouts.
Incredible.
Delay of games.
I thought there was going to this is what I thought was going to. I was looking out of the corner of my eye because I thought this little splash scheme was going to come in. And so that's why I waited awkwardly to fire buttons. So.
This is you're Adam Thielen explaining the route, and I'm Kirk being like, no, Phil, you got to go down the post. And
Judd is Justin Jefferson just throwing his arms up.
The bar management on this show has been really below my standards, and I have nothing to do with it.
We should be playing our best football in production in December as we ramp up here. But
falling apart.
So, all right. So, Reckless Speculation Thursday, we had Doogie on the show, and you found this clip from the godfather of reckless speculation, Charlie Walters, shooter in the Pioneer Press in the old newspaper.
Got it right here for those watching.
Little birdies.
Why don't you, because we alluded to this with Doogie, but why don't you read that little clip?
Okay. It's in the very big don't print that section.
Oh, I love
that. It's the third item on Sunday. Although he is 70 years old, there's new buzz that if Pete Carroll doesn't return as coach of the Seahawks, the Vikings would be a real possibility.
Wow.
That is the item.
Wow.
And by the way, that is
Reckless speculation.
That's how you do it. Like that is in
like
one paragraph.
Just walks out of the room.
Perfectly crafted. Mike on the floor. See you later. Shooter out.
Just drops the reckless speculation backpack in the room and leaves, and everyone else is like, "What is that? Oh my God, is that a reckless speculation? Is it explosive? What is it?"
Yes, it's very explosive.
So here's my question to you guys. I think we should ask this from the Vikings ownership perspective, and then you can sprinkle in sort of like what would you prefer to do. I think the Vikings owners think that they are in a win now window still going into next year. I think they think Mike Zimmer has underachieved with a good roster. And again, we could debate how good the roster is, but I don't think the ownership views this as a reset. If they decide Mike Zimmer's not the guy, I don't think they're saying he's not the guy and blow everything up and start over and bottom out to draft a quarterback and be the Jets. Like, I think they would be saying Mike Zimmer couldn't push the ball across the goal line. Someone needs to come in here who can. And Pete Carroll's an interesting name. We didn't have access to that shooter nugget when we did our offensive-minded head coaches list, but he's not even an offensive-minded head coach. He comes from a defensive background. Doug Peterson is an offensive-minded guy who has won a Super Bowl in the last 5 years in Minneapolis. I think the Wilfs would start with guys who have won a Super Bowl that can come in here with everything that they know, either a Doug Peterson or a Pete Carroll, before they would turn to hot coordinator candidates that are younger, that are unproven. What do you guys think they think?
I think what you summarize them as thinking is probably correct, but it's also flawed, and it's why I have, and we've talked about this throughout the process. The reason why I have trepidation about the Wilfs doing this is they need to be right here, and they need to be on point. And there's a couple of things here at work that I really don't like. Pete Carroll is a defensive guy. And I mean, Phil, going back to the summer, we've had extensive conversations, which we could take to the Wilfs to help them out, that say, if you want to win, if your philosophy is our defense is going to be really good, lights out, we're going to beat teams, everything has to go right. Hunter can't get hurt. Barr can't miss time, which he does. So if you're going to skew towards we can win now and you're going to make a coaching change, Peterson to me is a far superior choice, because he's going to come in and look at Jefferson. He's going to come in and look at the totality of an offense that is pretty good, and skill position wise, arguably is very damn good, right? And he's going to say, hold on a second here, explosive elements, I can take these and mold them and win. Pete Carroll is going to say, Dalvin Cook, we love to run. Oh my God, I got Dalvin Cook and I got a defense. And look, going back now 6 months, Zimmer And the Vikings deluded themselves into a false sense of security beyond a shadow of a doubt with defense is really improved. Like we all thought that. And now guys are out. So my problem is if you right now are saying Pete Carroll, you're saying the wrong name. The second thing is the Wilfs need to be told flat out, your window has closed, move on. And again, this doesn't mean that you have to get terrible, but what it does mean is that this whole thing of, well, we got the pieces, let's go, could be pivoted to, we've got the pieces, let's do the best job possible to build those into a really good team and explosive team. And I don't want any coach to take the job here whose first statement is this: I got Dalvin Cook. It's not because I don't love him. He's a hell of a player. It's because you're saying the wrong name. The name that you should say in 2021 going into 22 now is Justin Jefferson. And so that's the difference of like where I think the Wilfs are seeing this wrong. I don't think they're seeing this through clear eyes. And I don't think they have the right people telling them what they need to think, because they're thinking like fans. I don't want them to be fans. That's great. That's fun. And you know what? Enjoy games. Everyone should enjoy games. But I think that they need to see this as a business decision hire of what's going to be best for us long term. And in my opinion, Pete Carroll is not the choice.
But the argument that they would make for Pete Carroll, and again, I don't think it's coincidence that name Shooter is very plugged in. And for the younger audience that maybe has just started listening to us on YouTube or Spotify in the last couple of years, so if you don't read the Pioneer Press, Charlie Walters is a longtime local sports insider with a ton of connections. He's not just dropping Pete. Pete Carroll was an assistant coach here back under Jerry Burns and maybe Denny Green, like late 80s, early 90s.
He was a candidate for the job that Denny Green got
in the early 90s.
Sid pushed for him hard.
Yeah.
To be the head coach of this team.
And the argument, forget about age for a second, because I think Pete Carroll's a very young 70 still. Like he's energetic, he's a people person, he's been a player's coach. Maybe his message has worn out, and maybe his relationship with Russell Wilson has grown stale because they've been together for like 11 years. And Russell Wilson has gone from, this third-round pick, young, raw quarterback with training wheels to being one of the great talents of all time. And, maybe he's grown out of it. So just the argument that the Wilfs would make is Pete Carroll is a better version of Mike Zimmer. He's the defensive-minded guy that can actually connect with and develop a quarterback. I mean, Pete Carroll was instrumental in getting the most out of Russell Wilson. And so just because he's a defensive-minded guy doesn't mean that he's going to ignore the quarterback position or the value of the passing game. Like, yes, his teams do run the ball disproportionately compared to the rest of the NFL, usually, at least over the course of like 10 years. But he has built defense-first, run game, big play passing teams to win and go to Super Bowls. So Mike Zimmer is like a diet, angrier version of Pete Carroll. Defense? Okay, well, Pete Carroll had 4 number 1 defenses in a row, points defenses, during the heyday of those great Seahawks teams. So, like, everything that Mike Zimmer has been trying to do, Pete Carroll has done it better and with just a more attractive personality over the last 10 years.
I think that their mindset is similar to what Phil said, that Pete Carroll is a winner. He installed one of the greatest defenses of all time in the Legion of Boom. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's 70, and they're not going to give a 70-year-old like a 5-year contract. Like, I think that'd be foolish to do so. They would give Pete Carroll the keys to the car, knowing, all right, we're going to try this one more time. We're going to run this back with Kirk and everyone one more time. Maybe we draft a defensive end in the first round. Maybe we find a shutdown cornerback, and we try this one more time. And if in years 1 and 2 it ain't working, then we are going to hit the hard reset. I think it's still difficult for them to come to the terms that if they're going to do the hard reset and go for a young coach, because if you're hiring a young coach, that, like, I would assume if you're hiring Kellen Moore, you're going to give Kellen Moore a 5-year deal. Like, you're going to give him, all right, man, you're our new head coach. If everything goes according to plan, you'll be here for a decade, right? Where with Pete Carroll, he's even though he's successful, he's 70. You're not going to just give him the entire keys to the car. And I think that's kind of where they're at.
Yeah, you would be doing it. I think I agree with Declan. You would be doing it, or Doug Peterson's younger, so I think there's a chance you could give Doug Peterson like a 5-year deal and maybe even draft a quarterback. But with Pete Carroll specifically, you would be saying this is like a 2 or 3 year thing, and then we'll kind of see after that we expect to contend for and maybe win a Super Bowl in the next 2 or 3 years. In which case, you would probably sign Kirk Cousins to a little bit more of at least a team friendlier deal in the first couple of years, and you maybe backload money into 2024. So you'd keep Kirk Cousins. You would try to free up free agency money to make a run at offensive line and whatever Pete Carroll would want defensively. See what you do with Danielle Hunter. But it would be specifically to get better in 2022. That's why you would do it. It sounds like Judd doesn't think that you can get better in 2022. Is that what you're saying?
No. In fact, I'd like to role play.
Because I think
right
you
now.
can.
I'd like to role play right now. You are the Wilfs, Ziggy and Mark.
Okay.
And I am the consultant.
Like Declan and I are?
Actually,
Or I am.
Yes, you are
I'm
the
comfortable
Wilfs.
wearing the dress, but I'm excited.
No. You are the Wilfs, Ziggy and Mark Wilf. And I am
Ziggy's lost some weight, by the way. Have you seen Ziggy
he
lately?
looks good. Yeah, he lost weight a while back. He looks good.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I am your highly paid $1 million consultant. I am your football consultant.
Okay.
So I sit down in the room. It's you guys. Why is Rick here? Because we like having Rick here. Rick, get out of the room. Okay. So it's just you two. I want to talk to Rick because Rick is weighing in. Rick is in perpetual save my job mode. Rick is a impediment to what we're trying to do here. So here's my explanation. Because I know what you guys are saying, and I think that you might be right. It sort of scares me, but I think that you might be right. So here's where I'm going to urge you to open up your minds and to look at this as not just football fans, but, and I don't say this in terms of like ticket sales or things. I say this in terms of football businessmen talking about the sport of football. Gentlemen, I know that you guys are intrigued by the potential every year just like, fans in baseball, when spring training starts, everybody's got a chance. And I know that when the summer comes around and training camp approaches, you love to go to training camp and to walk the fields, roam the fields and think we got a chance here. Super Bowl champions, first time. But I am urging you to look at this through the prism of reality, which is this. One is, if you hit a reset in this league, it's not a 5-year, you're going to suck for 4 and pop up the 5th. But that's not this sport. The other thing is, and now that Rick's gone, I can speak comfortably. Listen to me very closely. Kirk Cousins is never going to win a Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins isn't wired right. Kirk Cousins, you need to look beyond what you were sold here. Like, you were sold what you thought was a great car. And you know what? Car does have some redeeming qualities, but the car's been in the shop a lot as far as its car brain, as far as its personality from a car. And to reset this thing by bringing Kirk back engine's
the word you're looking for there.
The car brain. That's the engine.
All due respect, highly paid $1 million consultant.
Computer.
All due respect.
That's the computer. Car brain. Car brain is off. It's not right. And if we were to, I've got a friend. His name is Declan. Okay, and he continues to push for a guy from Dallas, Kellen Moore. If you get the right guy. And yes, it's going to take some guts, boys. It's going to take some guts, but that's what the sport is about. If you get the right guy to come in and run this thing with the star components that you have, and make no mistake, the biggest star component that you have wears 18. His name is Justin.
Okay.
If you do this right, if you get, and look, I kicked Rick out because Rick needs to go. Rick can't be involved here. I don't want Rick involved here.
Hey,
Rick is
highly paid consultant.
Rick is
Are we paying you by the hour?
Yeah.
Rick is holding you back.
Here.
Rick is holding you back. And so what you need to do is you need to have the guts to make the difficult calls, which highly paid consultant guy will help you with. to put the right team in place and to stop with this continual, well, Pete Carroll's Mike is Mike, but he's a successful Mike. You need to look at this as what's going to be best for the Minnesota Vikings, not the Wilfs' hopes.
Okay, some good points in there. Highly paid consultant guy. Let me. Am I Mark or am I Ziggy? I think I'm going to make Declan be Mark.
Okay.
And I'll be Ziggy.
Yeah.
Okay. As Ziggy's older than Mark, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be the older brother here.
You are.
So listen, we know Kirk's flaws. Okay, we were hopeful. We love the numbers he puts up. It's great, and we appreciate the last 4 years of Kirk's service to the Minnesota Vikings. You know, he stays out of jail. Like, he doesn't get into trouble. He doesn't get in fights with his teammates. Like, he's just, he's a good employee. But here's the reality. Last year was the year to go for a first round quarterback or an ironclad quarterback of the future. Maybe Kellen Mond turns into that, but there's nothing that we have seen. He's not even active. There's nothing that we have seen to say that Kellen Mond is going to be ready to take over or compete for a starting quarterback job in 2022. This is also one of the weaker quarterback drafts in recent NFL history. So there is no quarterback of the future coming in the first, second, or third rounds. There's only flyers and guys that you would want to stash away as backups or practice squad guys. And you could say, well, but like Aaron Rodgers might be available. Zero chance the Packers trade Aaron Rodgers to the Vikings. Just like Brett Favre, he's going to have to stop in the AFC first. And I think there's a good chance that Aaron Rodgers no longer plays for the Packers next year, which means you've got 1 or 2 years here, maybe more. Packers without Aaron Rodgers, Bears hiring a whole new coaching staff. Justin Fields won't be ready to take over the division yet. The Lions with Jared Goff and Matt Campbell are a disaster. This is the Vikings division in 2022 if they just keep some pieces together and maybe add. If you start to tear things down, or if you move off Kirk Cousins for 2022, now you're stuck in the mud with the other 3 teams. The NFL is about timing in a lot of ways. What's your best path to win a division, play a home playoff game, and maybe rack up a couple extra wins to get to 12 or 13 and compete for home field advantage? 2022, especially if Aaron Rodgers gets traded to the Denver Broncos, is a huge year of opportunity for the Vikings to do some damage in the NFC. So I would like my thoughts on what to do in 2022 are sort of evolving by the week here as the picture becomes more clear. If you can get Kirk to reduce that cap number, which is a big if, I get it. He loves his money, loves the guaranteed contracts. And if you can bring a coach in that can get more out of this current roster and whatever the Vikings add to it, there's a big opening in 2022 and 2023. And so why would you want to mistime that by taking a step back at the same time as the Packers are going to take a step back and the Bears are going to reset and the Lions are the Lions? That's how I'm seeing the playing field.
Well, if I'm
Mark?
go back to consulting car guy here, and I'm looking at the car with my car brain, I can't sell this car yet without taking diminishing returns, i.e. the contract of Kirk Cousins makes things incredibly difficult to sell that car without eating a crap ton of money and with the uncertainty that's surrounding it. So instead, I'm going to defend Kirk here. I'm going to keep this car for 1 more year and try this again, hire Pete Carroll, get a different mind in here, and that's our best chance to win. That's basically where I'm at with the consultant here. If you can't get rid of this car and also and swallow a ton of money, which is the fun part of having a used car, you may as well keep riding out this car until you literally can't drive it anymore.
Also, like on the Kirk Cousins front, all 3 of us can sit here and agree, he doesn't really have the it quality. There's a reason why he's the only quarterback in the top 15 all-time passer ratings whose teams have a losing record. It's just like there's just something about he wilts under pressure. He's not a great leader. He's just kind of an I just work here guy. We can all agree on those things, but I don't think it's urgent to just be gone with him in 2 months.
Yeah.
And, like, what are you moving on to? Like, if you're going to tell me, no, dude, Kellen Mond is actually great behind the scenes, and he just needs some space to operate and breathe and make this team his own in 2022, I would say, all right. I mean, no one has reported that. Mike Zimmer never talks about Clint Kubiak never talks about him. He's just at practice, working on his mechanics, getting better. So in the absence of an immediate solution, or if you're going to tell me, listen, actually, Russell Wilson's available and he loves the Twin Cities in the fall months, and so does Ciara. Okay, like let's have that conversation. But I just don't know that it's urgent to move off Cousins. And so if you can like find a way to move that cap number down and make a run at this thing while the division's up for grabs in 2022, and then find a solution after that, I'm just saying. And Pete Carroll, I think Pete Carroll is a much better version of Mike Zimmer. And Doug Peterson is an established offensive-minded Super Bowl winning head coach. These are very intriguing paths. I'm sort of talking myself into the Pete Carroll thing right now.
You guys are
we might have to end the episode. I'm sort of talking myself
terrible
into it.
advice. You guys are getting terrible. This is why you have to fire Rick right now, because you guys are getting awful advice. And look, if Rodgers is gone, yes, there might be a chance there, but it's skewing more and more like he might come back now. And if he comes back, are you just going?
Diana Rossini said he's not going to. Diana Rossini said if he wins a Super Bowl, he'll leave. Like he'll leave no matter what. Yesterday, she reported.
I have heard the theory is he might come back. So anyway, but I'm saying you're like trying to be like, well, if he doesn't come back, it's going to be this and it's going to be that. But I would say that this is not a diatribe about not extending Kirk. I'm saying I would rather get somebody who is an offensive-minded guy here to embrace the side. I don't want the coach to come in and the first thing is, you got Dalvin Cook. We got that, because that's what Mike says. I don't want that. We got.
Well, what
Cook
if it's
as part of a grander scale with all of these skill position players who are special, and somebody knows how to use them.
And I guess what I'm saying is, if Pete Carroll comes in, having won a Super Bowl before, and by the way, his career record is like 150 and 100 or something, and that includes some train wrecks in New England and. Was he Jets at one point? I can't remember. Yeah.
Yep, he was Jets.
He had a couple train wrecks in there, and despite that, he's one of the more winningest coaches of the last 30 years.
He's done a great job, yeah.
If he comes in and says, "Hey, I know what a championship team looks like," that was like 8 years ago, and the league is a little bit different. And I still think that we can win this way.
Yep.
I would take that with more credibility than Mike Zimmer saying it, because Mike Zimmer's never even been. I mean, he went to the conference championship once and got smoked, but like Mike Zimmer has very rarely been a Super Bowl contending coach. So.
The problem too, though, is, and this is concerning. Pete Carroll would be a pivot away from Mike personality wise, not just for players, but I think the Wolves have become embarrassed with the way that Mike treats us, like in press conferences and stuff, which, by the way, personally, I don't care about. Mm-hmm. And so you're partially pivoting to a different personality. And I don't think the Wolves have the football knowledge to say, okay, that's great. You know, Mike's bristly. We're tired of bristly. I get all that. But I don't think the Wolves have the football knowledge to then say, we're going to do a pivot also, more importantly, because of what it's going to mean for our franchise. And Rick, again, the problem with Rick is he's always trying to save his own job. He's not like we have to get a group of people here who are going to make decisions that are best for the entire franchise, not for trying to save your own job. And second of all, to say, and this to me is the most important thing, where is the league going? Where is the league going? See, Pete Carroll to me is Rick influencing things, because Rick still wants to be right. 2014, I found a defensive guy. And the underlying problem there is what Rick is saying is, well, I found Kirk too. And deep down, I know I can't find one. I cannot find a QB.
Well, one more thought on this, and we'll get to old tweets exposed. I don't see a quarterback of the future, again, unless Kellen Mond is doing things behind the scenes that we just haven't seen, or one's bright. I feel like if he was that amazing behind the scenes, the team would be throwing that message out after a bad Kirk game, right? And that hasn't happened. Mm-hmm. That if there's no quarterback of the future in sight for at least a year or two, then the question becomes, okay, what can you do with what you currently have? Because you have a lot right now. You've got Justin Jefferson. You got Dalvin Cook. Thielen is still very much one of the better receivers in the NFL. Danielle Hunter hopefully comes back healthy next year. Who gives you a better chance to maximize what you currently have? Mike Zimmer or Pete Carroll or Doug Peterson? Mike Zimmer is third on that list for me.
Yeah, but here's what gives you the best chance. New GM, new coach, hard, long look at all of the names that you just said, and some reality of decisions that personally you don't like, which I think is it's necessary, prudent, and brilliant.
Okay, what if it's a new GM that comes in and hires Pete Carroll or Doug Peterson?
You know what? I trust that more. I don't want anyone in that building now hiring the coach. I don't trust him anymore. I'm convinced a new GM would not hire Pete. I think I think the Wilfs are such fans that they are saying Pete Carroll, one, can take the roster that we currently have and win, which is a very scary thing because they really don't know the sport well enough to say that. And the second thing is, and this is where they lose me completely, they're saying he's nicer than Mike. He's a nicer guy than Mike.
But but you're kind of like that's what you think they think.
Yeah.
But if he's nicer than Mike, I translate that to mean that no, he's a better leader than Mike because he can build better connections with players than Mike. Mm-hmm. And that's why he's been a better version of Mike over the last 10 years. That's why he won a Super Bowl. Well, but he had Russell Wilson. He had a third-round pick that was had some promise.
Yeah, he's very
good.
And
then helped mold him. Like Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson in large part because of Pete Carroll.
He's very good. He's 70. He's a defensive guy. He runs the ball, and he'll be nicer to the media. He'll be nicer to the media. I'm telling you, let's let fresh eyes come in here and decide. That's what I would. My last thing, Wilfs, is this.
Oh.
Don't make the decision yourself on a coach. Have nothing to do with that. But number one, get Rick Spielman out that door or kick him so far upstairs you can't see him. Go play golf together. I don't give a damn what you do with him. But in allowing this whole thing to be influenced by this, because the Vikings literally for the last 3 years now have become, let's chase this year, let's chase that year. There's no long-term plan but how are you going to chase real success? It's, oh man, we could come back with all these guys next year. We could come back. At what point in time do you finally just say, you know what? We've said that for 3-4 consecutive years. It just doesn't really work.
Okay. All right. I think we disagree on this. Is going to be a fun offseason because we disagree fundamentally on some things here. But we got to get to old tweets exposed here. Find out some of the embarrassing things that Declan has dug up on us on the internet.
I'll start with myself. I'm going to self-report here to start. I have a Vikings take. I said, I am bullish on Treadwell. He had a rough rookie year with the deck stack against him, and in my opinion, he got lost in the shuffle. This was during my Bring Me the News time, May 24th, 2017. So even though after a rookie year, I wrote an entire piece, which the link doesn't exist anymore, shout out to the poll ads, that I can't click.
Cheap poll ads.
But
they couldn't even keep that link up.
No, they couldn't. But I was still bullish on Laquan Treadwell, even after the one catch performance he had in his rookie season that he would bounce back.
Amazing. I love how you this is what Kirk stands and the Kirk Crusade does. It's everyone else's fault. Listen, okay, I know that, but it's the deck is stacked. The deck is stacked. That's the problem. That was the problem with
That's a good one, Declan.
That's pretty good. Okay.
All right, let's go to Judd, who made this proclamation right before, I believe, week 1 of this NFL football season for your Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. Declarative statement number 2. The Vikings' run defense will finish in the top 5 in the National Football League. They will be a top 5. Michael Pierce, Dalvin Tomlinson. It's going to help a lot. The linebackers a lot. Eric Kendricks becomes a better player. I think this run defense is going to be outstanding, and it's the one thing that I don't think there's any debate they spent to fix. Like Pierce came in March of 2020, didn't play. Tomlinson then, if you look at it, is really the marquee free agent addition for 2021. So this should be not a top 10. This should be a top 5.
Oh man.
Well, they should have. I mean, they were supposed to be good, but My God.
Man.
And again, because my prediction's wrong, this is why people have to be fired, not including me.
It's everyone else's fault.
It's everyone else's fault, not mine. Be a
yards,
Judge Stan.
Yards per game, the Vikings' run defense is 27th. Yards per rush, they're 30th. So,
yeah, it's been a colossal failure.
All right, well, that's a wrap on old tweets exposed here.
Right.
It's
I'm in
Judd
the
and
lead.
Declan just embarrassing
lead,
tweets
Declan.
every week. Should be ashamed of themselves.
Yours is bad. Mine is worse.
Well, old Macadac doesn't have a Vikings take this week, but he does have a take right before spring training, I believe, started for the Minnesota Twins.
They still need to figure out what a couple of those bullpen slots look like, but at the top end of that bullpen, Colomé, Taylor Rogers, Tyler Duffy, Jorge Alcala, I really like that part of the bullpen. Eddie Rosario, he's been a mainstay in the lineup. You say goodbye to him. It would have been nice to get something for him, but sort of the state of the baseball market. You swap him out and his guaranteed 25 plus homers and he drives in runs, but he's also a low on base guy. He's not a very good defensive outfielder anymore. And he can just as easily screw up a game as he can win a game for you. And you bring in the combination of Alex Kirilloff and Brent Rooker. And Kirilloff, if he clicks right away, projects to be a better overall player than Rosario. Mm-hmm. And he's been in the same prospect bin as guys like Cody Bellinger just a few years later. He's younger. And so and you've seen some of these young guys like Pete Alonso and Cody Bellinger, they just click right away. Kirilloff is in that bin, according to scouts and Baseball America, etc. He just hasn't been given the chance yet outside of the one playoff game. Rotation, I think it's kind of a wash. You're basically swapping out Jake Odorizzi, who's been banged up, was hurt and not good last year, and Rich Hill, who just can't stay healthy, for Jay Happ, who's been healthier, even though he's old, and Matt Shoemaker, who in his 3 starts should be good for you. But the top end of the rotation, Maeda, Buxton, Pineda, is basically the same. So maybe a slight downgrade there. You'd like to get one. If Shoemaker stays healthy, it's a wash. I look at all those things and I say, they're much better defensively. The top end of their bullpen is better, and Kirilloff might be better than Rosario. I think they're better on paper. Fight me.
So much to take away from that one.
I also put Buxton in the rotation there with a
That's okay.
Freudian slip.
My face was so fat. That's all I could focus on right there.
Did anything I just said, was anything right?
No.
Eddie Rosario
No.
was the NLCS MVP.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, he got traded from Cleveland and then
man.
became that. Yeah, I know.
Amazing.
No, that
All right.
was, yeah.
I think I win. All right. Champion of old tweets
Well,
exposed.
I did say the Vikings should be top 5 in run defense. I mean, it's close. It's
yeah, see, this is what happens when we get too positive on the show, man.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
People complain about us.
And people say we're not positive.
Mm-hmm. All right, a shout out to Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They're always right for your business. Federated's been around for over 100 years, based in Owatonna, and they specialize in risk management, bottom line protection, employee protection. Just make sure that you can sleep better at night as a business owner with the tools and resources that Federated provides. Federatedinsurance.com, and remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. That has been a Reckless Speculation Thursday on Mackie and Judd. Feedback Friday tomorrow. See you guys.